So the Champions Cup returns this weekend. What was once the best domestic rugby competition in the world is back up and running. So welcome back to the channel. That's what I'm looking ahead to in this video. There's so many games in the Champions Cup. There's so many different angles you can take that I'm going to speak about the following. So drop a comment down below on anything I touch upon. But if there's something I don't say, a team I don't talk about, maybe your club, then let me know and you can have your say in the comment section. I'm going to give my general thoughts on where this competition is at the moment, because there's some absolutely brilliant stuff. I think there's also some areas where it isn't the competition it once was. I'll talk about the importance of a South African side possibly winning it. Could that happen this season? Where the English sides sit as well, and also who is going to win it. Out of all of that, who do we think are the teams that could end up winning it? So as I say, welcome back to the channel. Whilst you're here as well, and whilst you're putting that comment down below, like the video and hit that subscribe button. I'd love it if I could earn your subscription and you fancy subscribing to the channel. So overall, as I say, I think this is a great competition. Every year we get some absolutely brilliant matches. I immediately think last year from an English perspective, Northampton's win away to Munster, Harlequins in that knockout game going away to Bordeaux and producing a brilliant display to win away to Bordeaux. Not to mention the final, I was lucky enough to be there in North London at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as Toulouse beat Leinster in an utterly ridiculous final. And actually all the finals over the last 3 years, 3 seasons, all 3 of which Leinster have lost, by the way, have been brilliant. So it's a competition that consistently gives us some amazing moments and some amazing games. And it is absolutely brilliant. But for me, it's not quite perfect yet. And I mentioned at the top of the video how once upon a time, undeniably, this was the best domestic rugby cup competition in the world, I think. I think at one stage that was undeniable. And we still have flavours of that and it gives us moments. But I think there are still issues. First of all, I think it's not exclusive enough. I think when we talk about the Champions Cup and we're talking about the best of the various nations involved, I think there's too many teams in it. 8 from the Premiership in England is just way too many. We know that. And I do think it's a competition that takes a bit of time to get going. Now, this opening weekend, we might get some absolute barnstorming games. But I still think, generally speaking, it is a competition that takes a bit of time to truly get going. In a way, it feels like we're waiting for the kind of quarter-final stage, really, before you feel you've hit the business end of it. And I think in part that could be to do with the amount of teams that actually how many teams genuinely could win it. But I'll come on to that at the end of the video. What about the South African sides? So their inclusion, I think in the URC overall has clearly been a brilliant thing. Being part of the URC means they are part of the Champions Cup. How important would it be for a South African team to actually win this competition? For me, it almost feels like what needs to happen for it to be embedded a bit more in the domestic rugby culture within South Africa. Because I know obviously they had the Super Rugby rivalries, the URC rivalries are growing, and I think the fact that we've seen the Bulls and the Stormers be at the business end of the URC over the last few years is a positive thing. And I know we saw the Sharks win the Challenge Cup. I just feel in terms of the Champions Cup, maybe it needs a South African winner. I think a South African team winning it could be a really good thing for the whole engagement within South Africa for this competition. And there are still going to be issues, I'm sure, once we get to the last 16 quarter-final rounds and the travel. And who was it last year? Was it the Bulls last year? That just had to rotate their team so heavily because they played a game at home 1 week and they had to get themselves up to the Northern Hemisphere the next week for the knockout game. And it didn't work. They rotated their team. The travel wasn't particularly viable. Those issues will remain. But for me, I'd love to see a South African team win it. And who are the most likely? At the moment, it seems like it's the Bulls or the Sharks. The Stormers haven't had the most consistent start to the URC season. Let me know. What about the English sides? I want to get onto the English sides for obvious reasons, given that's who I'm watching week in, week out. If you're watching this and you're a fan of an English club, is there an English club out there that you think genuinely could win the Champions Cup? Because I'll be honest, my gut instinct is no. My gut instinct is it might be another season in which the best outcome really is a Northampton, for example, who played that semi-final against Leinster. Weren't that far away, by the way, in Dublin against Leinster, of winning that game. But it feels to me like the best an English club could hope for is a Northampton getting to a semi-final, is a Harlequins having a brilliant win in Bordeaux and getting themselves to a quarter-final, but not too much more than that. The flip side to that argument, and I know a lot of people last year when Harlequins lost, when Northampton lost, was they will be better off for that experience. The English clubs don't have a huge amount of European experience at the moment. I mean, from that Saracens team that won 3 titles, or even the Exeter team we saw beat Racing 92 and win the Champions Cup. A lot of those players have gone. So the theory was Northampton and Quins are better for that experience, so therefore they'll be better placed this year. But I'm just not so sure. I'm not sure I see a team going all the way, which is interesting. I saw Stuart Barnes writing in the Times today here in England that he thinks an English club could potentially get themselves to the final. I personally just don't see that happening. I would love it if it happens, but I don't see it happening. If I was to pick an English club, it feels like Bath are the ones that might be able to win it. I think they're the strongest English side at the moment. They're top of the Premiership. I think they have the best strength in depth as well. So I'd probably pick them. But for me, I don't think we're at the stage yet where an English club can win this competition in the way that we used to see them being far more competitive. So final question then for you, who will win it? Of all I've said there, of how good it would be for a South African team to win it, and maybe the Bulls or the Sharks look most likely, I don't think an English team can win it. And I suppose, touching upon what I said at the top of the video, one of the issues for me with the Champions Cup is there are too many teams in it at the start that you know aren't going to be there towards the end, that you know don't really have much of a hope of winning it. So who can win it? Well, Toulouse are the defending champions, and obviously they're top of the top 14, incredibly strong. Leinster have been to the last 3 finals, haven't actually won it since 2018, but they've been there or thereabouts. Those 2 teams I think will be the heavy favourites. Beneath them, how many other teams are there that you genuinely think can win it? Is it a Bordeaux? We know of the likes of Louis Biel-Biarré and Damien Penaud. Incredibly strong side. We're disappointed in that defeat to Harlequins last season. Second in the top 14 at the early stages of the season. A La Rochelle, who we've seen win it back-to-back previously, haven't looked quite as strong last year. Could they do it again? Ronan O'Gara and co. Do you know who my dark horse is here? And hear me out. Is Glasgow. Mainly because we saw them run the gauntlet at the end of the URC season last year to win the title. Going away from home, on the road, final away in South Africa. Like, there were so many things stacked against them that made you think there's no way they can end up winning this. But they were able to. And I just wonder whether experiences like that, that's what you need in Europe. At some point you will be tested. You will have to most likely go on the road or at least host a Toulouse or a full-strength Leinster team and be able to get the job done. And I think the big thing for me is when I look at a lot of other sides in the competition, I don't see them being able to do that challenge, and certainly not being able to do it on consecutive weekends. I think Glasgow have shown that they can do that. They did it to win the URC. They've started this season strongly as well. So Glasgow, dark horses for the Champions Cup, what do you reckon? I think they're in the conversation. I don't think too many other teams are. Like, what is the likelihood we get a Toulouse-Leinster final again, which I'm not complaining about, by the way, because as I say, last year it was absolute blockbuster. But I'm just not sure how many other teams there are that can compete. Maybe a Bordeaux, a La Rochelle, Glasgow are my dark horse. I don't think any English clubs. You let me know in the comment section. Anything I've touched upon in the video, let me know. Give me your thoughts on it. Like the video whilst you're here, and also hit that subscribe button. I'd absolutely love it if I can earn your subscription. Appreciate you watching. I'll see you in the next one.